Welcome to Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Thanks so much for joining me this morning. Today we are joined by Doug Eroh. You've seen him here before on CBT News. He's the president and GM of Longo Toyota, the world's largest Toyota dealership. He's also the president of the Penske Motor Group. So Doug, thank you so much for joining us out of your very busy schedule, taking the time with us. We really appreciate that. I think you guys sell in excess of 25,000 vehicles a year, right?
Yeah, good morning, Jim. Great to see you again. That's right. Toyota and Lexus sell about 25,000 new and used here at Longo every year, and we're on track to do that again this year, in spite of all the challenges and the things happening in the world around us.
Yeah, which is what we want to talk to you about. So thank you again for joining us. First and foremost, how are sales, both new and used? How are they going right now?
If you look at the first half of the year, it's actually been pretty good. Okay. We're up almost 10% year over year in sales volume, new car sales volume. Used is flat. We've seen a little bit of a pullback on the used side. A year ago, we had a lot lower inventory. So, a lot of our business is driven, of course, by availability and, the products that we have to sell. And,
sure.
Fortunately, the summer of 25, from an availability perspective, is looking a lot better than the summer of 24. And that's driving certainly some more interest in our cars and more volume.
So let's talk about the rollback that you guys started there in California, but the rollback of the EV tax credits is, still making headlines. What kind of an impact has that had on your business, or do you think it will have on your business?
Yeah, I think, Jim, if you go back a couple months, there's really two things that have happened with respect to EVs. The first one was, the Senate and the House actually voted to use the Congressional Review Act to actually remove the right of California and 12 other states to set their own emission standards. Mm-hmm. So what that did is basically eliminated what you and I would call the EV mandate, right? Yeah. Where we're going to have, it was a little bit frightening, frankly, that the industry in those 12 states was going to have to sell 35% EVs starting this fall. And we're nowhere near that. So I think that was a huge win for consumers, right? Because in those states, we were not going to have the availability of the gas and hybrid models as manufacturers had to, meet this mandate. So that would have been a real problem for all of us. So that was a big win, I think, from both a consumer standpoint, from a dealer standpoint. Then you saw, and most recently in the bill that was passed, the elimination of the EV tax credits. Obviously that does have an impact on consumers. I look at the EV tax credits really in three buckets. One is the one that's on new cars. Certain models qualify, depends on the country of origin or country of assembly, some other factors. Not all vehicles qualify for that, right? So that's going to affect some and not others. Yeah. Our vehicles didn't qualify for that incentive, so frankly, won't have an impact. Second thing that I think will impact most dealers, most manufacturers, is the tax credit that went to the lessor of these vehicles and essentially was passed along to the consumer. If you look at that, the latest stat I think I saw was that 70% of EVs are leased. Yeah. Right. So, that I think from a tax credit perspective, that was being passed on and probably even subsidized further by manufacturers. So I think that's the one that will be the challenge. I think we're going to continue to sell EVs. Frankly, we're going to sell every powertrain, right? Yeah. Hybrids are in highest demand. We sell here about 58% hybrids. Okay. That's 700 cars a month. Wow. When you think about it. So EVs is a relatively small part of our business at our brand, but I think it will continue to be a part. The products are getting better. And I think in the future, frankly, everybody's going to compete on product, not on, who has the higher tax credit or who qualifies or where you build the car. So I think long-term, that's a positive, right? We've got to kind of get through this, transition period. I expect a very brisk sales opportunity in the next 60 to 90 days as these things phase out at the end of September. We've already seen a lift in our EV sales this month.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
In fact, we've already sold more EVs this month in July than we did in June. So it's only halfway through the month. So I think that will continue. Then we'll have to deal with, frankly, what life looks like after that. And, the auto industry, we all figure out a way to adapt. And I know we'll adapt to this. And ultimately, long-term, products will win based on the product attributes and how good of a product they are and how well they meet consumers' needs, right? As the range gets better and these products get better, they'll be more in demand, but it'll happen more naturally.
Sure, sure. And with the price of gas, I mean, you guys in California, I think you're probably paying the highest gas prices of anywhere in the country, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, you're correct. I mean, gas is probably 4.75 a gallon here, which is a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But it does, drive demand for more fuel efficient vehicles. And frankly, I think that's why it's one of the reasons that we do so well with hybrids.
Yeah.
Because people want, hey, I can get every Camry's a hybrid today. The majority of the RAV4s we sell are hybrids. We have really a hybrid almost every model we sell. So people are opting to that more, right? 40 miles per gallon, 50 miles per gallon.
Yep.
Ultimately, people are looking at cost of ownership, right? Which includes gas, which includes insurance.
Yep.
Insurance is, of course, a challenge as well. And overall affordability is a challenge. So it's just part of that. And, fortunately, we have products that can help mitigate it.
Yeah, affordability is a real issue that's got everybody concerned, consumers, OEM executives, as well as car dealers. And where is this headed? I mean, to have the average price of a new vehicle hitting almost $49,000, it's unacceptable, right?
Yeah, it's I would say our number one concern, right?
Yeah.
You look at the affordability for all consumers, and this doesn't just affect us; it affects every brand, every consumer. And it's definitely an issue, right? And again, to your point, it's not just the car, right? It's going to be the other things that go along with it, the cost of ownership. We're really focused on leasing. We're trying to get our lease penetration back up to where it was kind of in the pre-COVID days, which was, in the Toyota world, 25-30%, and in the Lexus world, 60+%.
Right.
We're not quite there. We're working on that, but that is kind of I see our ticket. To sort of getting through this affordability crisis, at least
Sure.
having a different means. We've got to get interest rates down. That is a structural issue that's affecting our business.
Right.
So I'm hopeful that as we get into the second half of the year, we'll start to see some cuts in that area, because that's another huge driver of our business. And certainly, the high rate environment we're in doesn't help.
Sure. Sure. And I know that we went almost the whole interview without mentioning the T word, which is tariffs. But I'll ask you now, what impact is that having on your business, if any? Are consumers bringing it up? What's your viewpoint on this? Obviously, as we coming into this interview today, the president just announced another 30% tariffs, and it's just, I mean, every single time you turn on the TV or you go to your phone, it's a different story on the tariffs. Has it got consumers tied up out there?
It's definitely in the air, as you said. I don't think you can go, anywhere without talking about it. I don't think there's a consumer that isn't talking about it.
Sure.
I think there's not a full understanding yet of where it's going to land,
Right.
where we're going to land with tariffs. I think that only part of the story's been told.
Yeah.
And if you look at the part of the story that's been told, quite frankly, I think it's helped our business in the short term. If you look at March and April, even
sure.
May, we saw big increases in traffic. I would almost call it a frenzy in those first few weeks following those announcements. But of course, when you have a frenzy like that, there's also a give back to that, right?
Right.
I think
you pull those deals ahead, right?
Yeah, there's only so much business out there. So I think we pulled a little ahead.
Yeah.
We're probably feeling that a little bit. We probably felt it a little bit in June.
Mm-hmm.
And I say I'll use the collective we as an industry.
Yes. Yeah. Everybody I talked to felt the same way.
Yeah, I think it's common. I think it's certainly not worrisome. I mean, at least in terms of where the business is currently. Mm-hmm. We were in a meeting yesterday, and really, if we look at our traffic and we look at, what we're selling, we're sort of back to the level we were at. I would call it in the first half of March, right?
Okay.
Before there were tariffs, sort of almost a normalized, like this is sort of the business. Now, of course, there are some, certainly some storm clouds on the horizon. If these things were to continue, I think if you look at it, the manufacturers, and Toyota's done a great job. We're fortunate to work with them to hold the pricing.
No better.
Right? They're getting, I mean, you think about it, these manufacturers are paying an exorbitant amount of money, and it's even an unfathomable amount of money in tariffs right now. And that has not been passed along in a meaningful way to the dealers. And we're fortunate, again, to work with Toyota, who's done that. I mean, the average price of a car just went up $270. So, I mean, we're talking about less than $5 a month on a normal contract.
Exactly.
It's not immaterial. So, but, of course, not everybody's not going to be able to hold their breath forever. So we're hopeful that there's a deal, that there's I think what the industry craves is certainty. And right now there's a lot of uncertainty. I think certainty, whatever that tariff might be, and of course, I think everybody would love a lower one, I think would be, would provide the certainty that's needed for the industry to move forward and have plans and let us plan our business appropriately. So we're hopeful to see that. Sure. Again, I don't think the whole story's been told yet, and we'll see where we're at in a few months.
Yeah, for sure. Other than the tariff situation, is there anything that keeps you up at night about as you look to the end of the year that you say, that might be an issue lurking around the corner there we got to keep our eye on?
Yeah, I think we just got to I think we talked about it, but affordability, right? It's just how many people are priced out of the market right now. I think that is something that we've got to really, as an industry and really economically find a solution for. I think interest rates, of course, is going to be part of that. Leasing's part of that. There's other things, getting material costs down, these things that have driven up over the last few years that have caused a rise. I think, you look at the regulatory environment, there's a lot of things that have been added to cars.
Yeah.
You put a car through a collision center today, we've got a big collision center here, and you look at the cost of repair and severity on that car, and it just costs. I
can imagine.
Granted, it's a safer car, which is great, but there's a lot of cost in that vehicle. Fixing a bumper, isn't $400 anymore, right?
Yeah.
It's $2,000, depending on what the car has. So there's a lot of pieces to it. It's not a simple solution, but I think that there's some short-term things that can happen. But that's the biggest thing that's really that we're keeping an eye on beyond our business. And we just had a mid-year planning meeting with all of our managers, and we just said, hey, you know what? The best thing we can do is control the controllables, right? We can't control tariffs.
That's right.
We can't control interest rates. We can't control these macroeconomic things. So the best thing we can do is just continue to get better at all the processes and the things that we do in our business. And, most importantly, continue to provide an exceptional guest experience and be better than everybody else at that. And, we'll continue to win no matter what the size of the market is.
I love it. Great attitude. Doug Eroh, President and GM of Longo Toyota, the world's largest Toyota dealership. Man, you guys have been number one for how many years? When I sold Toyotas back in the 80s, you were number one. It's been going on now a little too long, Doug. I mean, come on. Give somebody else a chance.
58 consecutive years.
Oh my God,
proud of
58.
We have a great team here.
You really do. No question about it.
To continue to win.
In addition to a Starbucks, in addition to all of the other retailers that you find right there at Longo. So congratulations on all your success. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule. I really appreciate it. I know a lot of our dealer viewers get a lot out of your visits with us. So thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Good to see you.
You too.
Thanks for watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.